Hello, 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 and welcome to my YouTube channel. It's Jameelah. I'm a master manifester. You are too. Watching content like this. This is Manifesting Magic, the practical way, because there are a lot of practicalities, right? We got to do the work. It just is what it is, right? We do the work, put our heads down. We don't look for accolades, and we make things happen, right? The magic happens after that. I was telling someone, yeah, we can all do really specific things to create a really specific outcome. But when it comes to those extra special outcomes, that's the stuff that we don't have real insight into. That's the stuff, the tipping points, or the person who's going to open that door that we knocked on that we didn't know that we were capable of knocking on, those sort of things, right? That's the magical aspect of it to me, right? Sometimes I am challenged by some people, just in general, about, well, you have to work in life, you have to, and I was like, when I say manifesting magic, I'm not talking about that you don't have to do the work, right? And someone said something in another video, commented on it, and they're just like, I'm just supposed to sit here in meditation form and do la 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 whatever, and I'm just like, yeah, you can do that. I wasn't telling you to do that. They were mocking, thinking that's what I was saying, and I'm just like, I'm not saying to do that. What I'm saying is that there's nothing about my background and track record that doesn't say I'm not willing to do the work that needs to be done. What the magic comes in is the fact that there are several people, always millions, that are going for the same outcomes that you are. And when those things intrinsically happen for you, it's usually when your mind is right, your heart is in the right place, and when you are connected with people on a much deeper level than averagely, like a much deeper level than what your words can actually connect with them with, right? And they're actually creating a space for you to expand, grow, and evolve, right? So anyway, um what I'm discussing today is sometimes we are a major player in somebody else's trauma. And I'm saying that because a lot of times we think that we can control the way that we show up in other people's lives. Like we think we can control the way that we are represented. And I think a lot of people spend a lot of time controlling their image to other people, controlling the way they're seen, controlling the way that people view them, and that sort of thing. And while it can be useful to make sure that if you want a certain image, you put that out there, but we have to know at the end of the day that many people have so many different types of traumas that they're dealing with, or so many different types of negative energies or perspectives or stuff like that, that we don't get to choose what we represent in their space, right? Because you can meet someone, it's like a good friend, you're excited, you're like, oh, we have similar things in common, we have this, that. I remember I had a friend that was a very long term friend or whatever, and she had gotten married, and she said, and I was just like, oh, it's so, and it was very, we were sharing all those stories and stuff like that. They like eloped or whatever they did. I don't know what they did, but nonetheless, she got married and stuff. And we were talking about something else, and I was just like, well, when I said, I think at our level, I was talking about in academics. I was like, I think at our level, I was trying to, share something. And she was like, you think we're on the same level? And I was like, I never really thought about us as not being on the same level. I figured that's why we were friends and that's why we were hanging out. Right. And she was just like, oh, I always thought that you were better than me. Like you thought you were better than me. I was like, that is never. And I'm like, so even when you were trying to have a mutual conversation, a mutual relationship with people, if they have some sort of trauma about the way that you show up in their space, then you'll be a villain and you wouldn't even know that you're a villain. You'll be an oppressor and you won't even know that you're an oppressor. You'll be a source of angst and a source of anger, or a source of low self-esteem, and you won't even know that you're causing that in people's lives, right? Because sometimes our behaviors can be very specific. They can very specifically cause negative energy in people's space. But sometimes we go in places with our best intentions, with our best mindset, with our best energy, with our highest and most utmost self. And because someone else may not be used to seeing that type of energy, or they may not know what to do with it, or it reminds them of someone who was that way and maybe they were fake, or whatever it is, you may become a villain in someone else's story, even if you don't present yourself that way, right? So I just wanted to say that real quick, because I don't want to. I don't like the idea of people getting caught up in thinking that they have to force or get someone to see them differently, right? Because that's not really just that's not your work, right? Now maybe that is with our kids, because they're still being molded and they're growing up and they're developing and learning and all that sort of stuff, and we can see where we did something that we didn't like and we do some course correction. That's all good. But when you're dealing with other adults and you don't realize that something about you makes them feel some kind of negative way, you can easily just go da 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 through life. And when it happens, think that you're responsible for making it better. Think that you're responsible for cleaning it up, right? I would say this too, because I have quite a few male friends over the years and a few male counterparts and stuff like that. And I always like that trait because I think it's more masculine trait. I mean, it is a more masculine trait. Like, just being able to say, I don't know, so and so got a problem with me. I ain't do nothing. I'm good, right? And my ex husband was like that. It's like, I didn't do nothing to them. I'm good. And I was always just like, but wait, you got to repair it. They think that you're like this. They think that you're like that. They don't think you're a good person. And it's like, I didn't do nothing to them. If it's a problem, they need to speak up. And I'm just like, oh, okay. And so that's kind of like what we're dealing with a lot of times. Is like we don't realize that we don't get to choose that outcome. We can do our best to put out a specific energy and attitude, but if someone doesn't trust us, or someone doesn't like us, or someone doesn't want to go to lunch with us, or someone doesn't want to take a walk with you, or bring you into the inner fold, and many times it has nothing to do with your direct actions. It has more to do with how you make them feel in their space. So if there's anything about you that someone's rejecting or they're negative towards, it may be triggering them in some place that is not healed, and you don't have a deeper insight into. You don't have the information for. So because you don't have that information, it's really hard for you to address it. So unless another adult specifically says, and I've had this happen, a friend of mine back in the day, she's like, girl, I'm so jealous of you. And she was like, not in a bad way, but I am, like, the way you did blah, blah, blah. And she just went on and on. And I was like, oh, and I was like, well, that would explain why she ghosted me as a friend more than once, right? And I was like, people go through their things, and that I'm perfectly okay with that because I have my moments too. But it's like, I can perfectly see how I was showing up as something in her life that I had no clue that I was affecting her in that way. From my perspective, it was just that, people have their stuff. We have mutual things. We sharing stories about raising kids and being married and all this kind of stuff. I never really thought about that someone was doing so much better than the other. I'm like, hey, we all in the thick of it. But I think also too, if you gracefully go through your issues, a lot of people think that you don't have issues. If you gracefully get up every morning, pull yourself together, put on that makeup, or brush that beard, put on those earrings, do that hair and stuff like that, put on those dress clothes, or just look nice and present yourself in the way that you care about what you look out there. A lot of people think that you don't have issues because you look put together. I've long since known that wasn't true. I've been looking put together my whole entire life, and I've had issues at many times in my whole entire life, right? So just keep that in mind. We don't get to decide whether we are the villain or the hero in other people's stories as it relates to how we show up for them. But what we can do is always put out our best intentions, always approach people with the most love and the most understanding. And then that way we can have a conversation about our differences and possibly find a common ground. And then maybe nobody's going to be worrying about what anybody's doing. And we won't be villains in anybody's story that's around us and not know it, right? Anyway, that's all I got to say today. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.